I think a great, thing to explain now would be, side chains. What's the difference between a layer two, and a side chain? We talked about the blockchain trilemma and the congestion issues, and Orbis is actually using the security of the layer one on Cardano while improving the scalability. So, stating that, where does side chains fit in? Of course, they will improve scalability, but do they lose the security of the layer one?
Yeah. So side chains and layer twos are different. At within, I guess, the current way in which we use these terms widely in the space, the layer two would be built on top of a blockchain, and it would inherit the security of the blockchain through that contract. Whereas a side chain is almost like building a separate blockchain entirely and just connecting it either through a bridge or even through a contract, but it's a separate blockchain effectively with a smaller number of validators or nodes, or in our case, stake pools, let's say 30 or so, and they keep the number of pools small so that lots of transactions can be processed very quickly so that it can reach consensus very quickly. So a side chain is almost like having another blockchain, a smaller one, next to the Cardano network and connecting them through some kind of bridge. So it helps in terms of scalability. However, it does make compromises on the decentralization aspect, given that they keep the number of pools small, or at least they try to. Once that grows, to a significant amount, we're now back into the same problem that, a normal blockchain would have. So side chains, they keep the stake pools small, to then, benefit from scalability, whereas layer twos solve the problem in a different way of letting, the layer one, Cardano, handle the decentralization and the security, and then it focuses on the scalability aspect in a layer two environment built on top of Cardano, connected by the smart contract. So yeah, that's the distinction there. So at least in our opinion, I think generally accepted in the space is that roll-ups have a lot more utility compared to side chains, given that you don't have to make the compromises, decentralization and the security of your network. You can inherit that from another ecosystem that's already established, those aspects in a strong way, i.e., Cardano itself, and then still push forward and specialize in the scalability aspect, whereas side chains make compromises to get that same result.
So, do you feel moving forward there's going to be, a place for both side chains and layer twos on Cardano? Or do you think that,
Yeah,
side chains have such, utility and scalability while remaining, decentralized that, side chains just really aren't, as, useful or decentralized?
yeah. So I'd say we have more confidence in layer twos going forward, or roll ups more particularly, compared to side chains. Given the roll ups, they put us in and ZK roll ups especially put us in a situation where we don't have to make those compromises to achieve scalability
Yeah.
and to scale the network. So yeah, we're more confident on roll ups compared to sidechain solutions.
Thank you so much for that explanation. I really learned a lot. What is the difference between Orbis and Hydra moving forward? So for those of you that don't know, Cardano has always envisioned layer two scaling, and that is called Hydra. And from my understanding, we're going to see a phased rollout throughout this year and maybe a little bit of next year, the same way that we did with Alonzo. We saw a little bit of utility added here, a little more utility added here, and the same thing is going to happen with Hydra this year. So what is the main differences between Hydra and what you're building at Orbis?
So the main differences would be that Orbis is a ZK rollup, and this is how it's tackling scalability, whereas Hydra is using a different approach. It's using state channels. Hydra, interesting enough, is actually more similar to Bitcoin's Lightning Network in the a group of actors. They can collaborate together and agree on transactions happening in a separate environment, and you know, you know off chain, this separate state, and they establish that they can send transactions back and forth, and because they've established this state together, it can be low fees and much faster settlement for those transactions. And then once they've agreed upon everything that's happened within the Hydra head, they can close that, well, they agree, and then they can come back with the result of that. So Hydra is a different solution. Uh, at least the initial implementations of it will involve the different actors, within, the Hydra environment having to actually agree and having to trust each other. Whether it's, and if it's from one person to another, two people, let's say, I want to send you money, ADA, and you want to send me ADA back, and we want to do that really quickly for micropayments, that's okay because I know you and we can have that agreement and trust each other. It starts to get a bit more challenging when you have lots of different independent actors who don't necessarily know each other and need to collaborate, given that any one of those actors can close the Hydra head. So it can be useful in some situations. However, in terms of all the scalability needs, especially for DeFi, which is really the big use case currently for blockchain, and for Cardano going forward, roll-ups are more conducive to that, given that you don't have to put trust in the other actors, within the roll-up, to perform those transactions. But we do see Hydra still being useful in certain situations and for certain use cases. Probably something more akin to similar, with what the Lightning Network is doing for micropayments, and other, interesting things that they are working on. But we would say that rollups are a more general purpose solution for all scalability concerns, whether it's, micropayments and sending, ADA back and forth, or interacting with DeFi protocols and being able to do that in a fast, high throughput, low latency, and low transaction fee way.
So would you say that Orbis is going to be more decentralized than Hydra?
I would say yes.
Because of the
Uh,
trustless nature?
Yeah, yeah. At least initially, yes. Orbis will grow into something that is a fully decentralized system. That's the goal, and that's the final vision. And there's a pathway to get there. With Hydra, the initial implementation, at least from what we've read, will have some trust assumptions in anything that you'd be building. But there is more work and more, because Hydra isn't a single protocol. It's a range of different protocols and tools. So in terms of that, I do think it would be best to kind of look to what the Hydra team is putting out, as they'd have more, yeah, definitely more knowledge about their system than I would. But at least initially, in terms of trust, Orbis, would be trustless. You wouldn't have to put trust in any actor to interact with Orbis.